Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another video. For today's scent of the day, do you remember how I just recently hauled a whole bunch of these incense sticks from Amazon? Well, I have been legitimately burning through this one called California White Sage. And I'll tell you, it smells kind of soapy, but in such a good way. And yet it still maintains that original Nag Champa base, so it is such a delightful fragrance. And to be honest with you guys, I think I only have three of these left, so I've really been going through these. And if you're ever on the hunt for some really good incense, I'll link this bundle that I got below because you cannot beat the price for the quality of these. If you're brand new to my channel, well then welcome. My name's Melissa. I really like the color purple. We do beauty content around here. I film 2 videos a week. On Wednesday, you'll find just random content, and on Mondays, this is kind of a routine video. Typically, we go over the eyeshadow palette of the week, we do a tutorial on it, and then I go into an in-depth review. So for today's palette of the week, we're gonna use this one by Colourpop. This is called the Cabana Club Palette. And if you've never seen the inside of it, then let me show you. Mine's quite a mess, as you can see, but here's what the basic color story looks like. And let me say, ever since this first release, I've always been kind of into this one. I know Colourpop releases the same things over and over again, but some of their things just really catch my eye, and this is one of them. As of now, I think this palette is discontinued from the Colourpop website, but of course you could catch it on other sites for sale. So I always like to discuss our plan of action so you know exactly what we're going to be doing. So the first thing that we're going to do is an eye tutorial with this, and it's something called a crazy triangle eye look. And when you see the look, you're going to know exactly why I called it that. The second part of this video is going to be an in-depth review of this, so if you want to know my personal experience with this, how everything worked, anything that went bad, stay tuned for the second part of this video. But as for now, let's get right on into the tutorial. Hey guys, welcome to part 1 of this video, which is the tutorial, and I actually got my microfiber towel today, so we are ready to rock and roll. I did move you guys quite closer to my eye so you can see everything that I'm going to be doing, and all the specific names of the products that I have on my face and that I'll be using today, as well as the brushes, will be listed down in the description box below. So the first step is I'm just taking a pinch brush, and I'm going to go into the lightest highlight shade in this palette called High Season. And I'm just gonna get some of that on my brush and definitely tap this off. This is a very messy palette. So like always, I'm just gonna highlight under the entirety of the eyebrow. Now I'm filming this video pretty late tonight, later than usual anyway, because honestly, I've been playing a video game with my husband recently and we've really been getting into it. And I let time get the best of me today, and we've been playing the video game pretty much all day, when I should have in fact been filming and I just didn't. And typically my schedule is to film, edit, and upload the same day. So when I have poor time management skills, it really does affect me. Okay, so now I got that highlight shade under my eyebrow, and the star of the show is a black pencil eyeliner. And we're gonna do a lot of work with this, so make sure you have one that's relatively sharp because we're gonna do a lot of precision work with this. So the first thing we're gonna do is work on building an outer corner with this pencil. So I'm going to start at the top of my eyebrow and make a line pretty much to where I think the center of my outer corner is. So once I get that done, I'm going to make a line from my outer corner to meet up with this point out here. And a really good tip when you're working with an eyeliner in this capacity is to really draw lightly, because if you mess up, you can easily just brush it away, whereas if you go in heavy-handed, you're gonna have a hard time with intense smearing. So just take your time, try to line everything up, and you'll get there. So once we get our outer corner built, we're gonna build the front slope of the eye look. So I'm gonna start at my inner corner, and I'm gonna make a line that slopes up to my eyebrow. Now once you have all your lines drawn, you can definitely go over them again and make them a lot bolder. Now the next step is to connect both these lines, and by doing that, we're gonna create a V shape. So I'm gonna start here and make a V connecting the other point with this outer corner. So just watch me and then follow along. And the last step with this eyeliner for the time being is to break this outer point in half. So to do that, I'm just gonna start at this outermost point and make a line towards the center of my eye. Okay, so now we get to fill in these triangles. So the first shade I'm gonna go into is the purple shade called Cha Cha Cha. And I'm gonna fill in this first triangle all the way. And then I'm gonna go ahead and fill in this third triangle right here all the way. Now same brush, I'm gonna dip into the shimmer shade called Cool Off, and I'm gonna fill in these last two triangles with this shade. Now on the purple triangles, we're gonna do a little bit of highlighting just using the same brush with the pink shade called Bikini. So I'm just gonna a little bit of that put on my brush, and I'm gonna go into the middle of each triangle and just dust a little bit of this onto the interior of each one, kind of blending as I go. And for the blue shade, we're gonna highlight with the shimmery orange. So I found the best way to do this is to get the shade on the outermost tip of the brush and to gently pat it head first onto the area that you want to highlight. Now we're going to fill in the lid space, and with that I'm going to take a very, very flat brush and I'm going to go into the deepest blue shade called Pool Party, and I'm going to put this over my entire mobile lid. And as I'm placing the shade on my lid, I'm patting it into it because this shade has a tendency to be a little patchy, so you kind of want to build it up as you place it as well. Now I'm taking that multi-purpose brush and going back into that blue shade. And I have quite a bit on my brush, and I'm just gonna go around the edges right here and kind of swirl them in circles so this blends out nicely into the triangle sections. Now there's no doubt in my mind that you're gonna have to clean up some fallout with this palette, so just go ahead and remove any fallout that you get on your face. And for the waterline, I'm taking that same exact eye pencil that we did all the drawing with, and I'm just gonna place this into my waterline. Now for the lower lash line, I'm taking a really small fluffy blending brush. I'm going into the deep brown shade called Throw Shade, and I'm gonna run this generously along the entire lower lash line. But the best part of the lower lash line comes now. I'm gonna take an angle brush and go into that deep blue navy shade again. And we're gonna do a fun taper with this. So I'm gonna start pretty thickly in the inner corner. And then the further outward I go, I'm gonna thin it out. And then for the inner corner, just grab whatever brush you feel comfortable with and go into that really light highlight shade again. And just put this into your inner corner, same shade as we used on the brow bone. So there's the look. It's a pretty simple look. It's just a lot of steps in it. I'm gonna go off camera, do the other eye, apply some mascara, do all those kind of things, and we will be back to talk about what's going on here. Okay guys, so here's the final look, all done, all with mascara on, and I used this Colourpop Act Natural mascara. Mine's been drying out for quite some time, and I think this is anything but natural. This is such a good mascara. I don't know why I don't use it more. But yeah, let's talk about this eye look. I called this Crazy Triangles, and indeed, it is a crazy triangle look. Now, this is something I probably wouldn't wear every day, but this is kind of cool for something different. If you're bored with your same old shape of your eyeshadow, this is something different you can do and something a little bit more unique. And I'll be honest with you, when I looked at this color story, I did not think that it would get this dark and smoky, so I was kind of surprised by that. But I do honestly love all these colors together, and just looking at this makes me really, really happy. So definitely be sure to tell me what you think about this look down in the comments below. And with that, let's move right on into the review. Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of this video, which is the in-depth review for our palette. And before we get started on the review, I want to show you how bad this palette looks after I just finished using it. Every single shade in here has so much kick up that all the shades are going into each other, and it's almost like I hit pan on shades so far. I've never seen a Colourpop palette do this before, so I'm very curious if this is a different formula or something. If you have this palette, let me know if this same thing happens to you when you use it. But as I mentioned before, this is the Colourpop Cosmetics Cabana Club Palette, and of course it's what I'm wearing on my eyes right now. And of course I always like to start with the packaging. This is a typical Colourpop packaging. It's really high color, nice cardboard packaging. Every single shade is outlined and listed on the back for you. There's no mirror inside this one, and every single shadow in this palette is removable with a magnet. So you get 12 shades in here, and this is a mixture of eyeshadows and pressed pigments, so if you're sensitive to pressed pigments, please be aware that they do exist in this palette. And each shade weighs 1.18 grams, which is just slightly above the average amount per pan. And of the 12 shades, there are 2 formulas in here. You get 7 mattes and 5 shimmers. So breaking that down a little bit, 58% of this palette is made up of matte shades, which I do really like. I like a matte heavy palette or a fairly balanced palette. So let's go ahead and talk a little about each formula, starting with the mattes. To me, the mattes felt abnormally dry in this palette. Some of the shades that I picked up had a very chalky feeling to them, and they were very thick. Although not the typical Colourpop formula I've come to love, they did blend out nicely. And I found these shades to be a more buildable formula instead of being directly pigmented. So as you apply them to your eyes, you really need to kind of build them up to get the intense pigment that you desire. And as for the shimmers, I found the shimmers very soft, crumbly, and flaky. As soon as you touch your brush in the shimmers, they kind of fluff everywhere and it makes a giant mess. And I'd like to point out there's no special shades in here, they're just all very generic shimmers. And within the shimmer formula, there's both a mix of sheer and pigmented bases. It just depends upon the shadow that you pick up. And I also attempted all application methods. I used my finger, I used a dry brush, and I used a dampened brush. And the best way to apply the shimmers is with a dampened brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop up some swatches of this palette so you can see how every shade looks swatched out. So let's move into our routine data check. Firstly, this is not clarified as being a clean formula. Secondly, this palette is cruelty-free. Thirdly, this palette is not vegan. And the fourth point is I cannot find a PAO anywhere on this palette. It could have been on the original packaging, of which I do not have. And now we're going to move into the cost evaluation. As this is a limited edition palette, you can no longer buy this for the retail price of $18, but it is available on other sites for around $17.96. So breaking that down, it comes to $1.50 per shade, and breaking that down a bit further, it comes to $1.26 per gram. So comparing this to other similar palettes on the market, the price per shade is pretty excellent. And additionally, this palette has an average cost per gram compared to other palettes that I've previously reviewed. Now let's move on to the most opinionated part of this review, which is my recommendation. The first 4 points I always like to hit on is patching, staining, creasing, and blendability. As far as patchiness, I did experience some patchiness with this deep navy shade right here. This is one of those shades that when you kind of apply it, you really have to pat it and build it up, because if you brush it, it really dusts away and it does look patchy. As far as staining goes, some of these shades did stain my skin, and that didn't surprise me since this does contain pressed pigments in it. Speaking on blendability, I did find this remarkably easy to blend, even though I did have some issues with it. So as far as creasing, I wore my eye look for 2 hours, and within that 2-hour time frame, I didn't see any signs of creasing. So I know we already discussed this at the beginning of the video, but I just have to talk about it again. The amount of kickback and fallout from this palette is unlike any other Colourpop I have ever seen. This is the messiest palette that I have ever used from them. I don't know what makes it that way, but I just want to point it out. This is a messy sucker. Now, as far as my recommendation goes, when I looked at everything and how to rate this, I gave it a B rating. And I think if you come across this palette, it wouldn't be a bad pickup. I love the color story. It's a very nice tropical color story and is great for the summer season. And although this palette does have some downsides, I don't think it's the most horrible palette I've ever tried in my life. I have 3 reasons, of course, why I feel this way. So let's start with my first reason. Reason number 1 is there's a great formula balance in here. And by that I mean you're getting a really great balance of mattes to shimmers in here. When you have a great balanced layout, you can create more looks. It gives you more versatility. My second reason is that this is very easy to work with. Personally, I find that the more powdery the formula, the easier it is to use and blend. For some reason, it's always been that way to me. And I do really like this formula for the ease of use. And my third reason kind of goes along with the first reason. I wrote that the versatility with this palette is immense. And I say that because you have so many depth shades down here. Plus you have some neutrals mixed into a very vibrant color story. So you can carry this neutral, you can carry this very vibrant. You could create a crazy triangle look like I did. Who knows what you can do with this? I think it's just kind of a fun palette and one that, like I said, I've been attracted to since it came out. So yeah guys, I just wanted to throw in a quick mention really quick. My credibility and my integrity is very, very important to me. So when I recommend or discommend a product, that means I'm putting my name on it. I don't care who sends me what or what I got for free or any of that. Honesty is the most imperative thing. So just know that I would never recommend something that I don't truly love myself. So with all of that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. And if you did like it, please give me a giant thumbs up. And if you hated it, just give me a thumbs down. And until next time, bye.